Okay, we're recording.
This is live from the table, the official This is live from the table, the official podcast of the Comedy Cellar on Raw Dog 99 XM and on Ridecast Podcast Network. This is a special Corona edition. We're all doing this from home. This is Dan Naturman, of course. Our longtime listeners recognize my nasal tones. We're doing this, all of us, via Zoom from our homes in lockdown in New York City. I'm here. Periel is here in her home. I'm not sure where that would be, but somewhere in New York City. Periel, where's your home?
I'm in downtown New York City.
Downtown. Davidoff is here, a longtime regular guest and Comedy Cellar comedian from his home out in the swamps of New Jersey. Welcome, Dove, all the way from the darkest corner of New Jersey.
It's hardly the darkest corner. I'm in a private park right now. It's Corona-free where I'm at. So pristine, so sweet. It's like being in a natural spring. You city dwellers are rat-like people, and I only talk to you online.
Well, we're glad to have you with us, despite your contempt for the way we live and for our lifestyle. Noam, we are waiting on Noam. He had to. We're recording relatively late. This is 10:40 right now at night. Noam had to, I guess, homeschool the kids.
Yeah, we're all homeschooling our kids.
Well, what the hell is Noam homeschooling these kids? They're going to go to school talking about the Mueller report all day. And about Chinese kids not getting into Harvard.
Yeah. No,
is every parent homeschooling their kid? Perry, you're a parent.
Define homeschooling.
Well, are you officially home? Your kid is home from school, right, Perry?
This is as far as we got today.
Pretty good.
But are you officially homeschooling the kid, or is it just kind of?
He was supposed to fill out this worksheet, and he wound up writing, "I'm super mad." And if you can see how that's
well, not everybody's going to have the video, Periel. I think we're just using.
No, everybody's going to have the video.
For the serious broadcast, we're just.
Oh, right. Well, anyway, the point is that he's going to be illiterate if this continues much longer, and it is going to continue.
But what is the mandate from the Board of Ed?
I mean, there is no mandate from the Board of Ed. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, what can they possibly mandate?
I'm saying they could maybe mandate that every parent has to follow some sort of curriculum. I don't know. It would be hard.
There's supposed to be some video conference element.
There is, but I think, everybody's pulling this out of their ass.
Of course, yeah.
Are the kids going to have to go to school in the summer?
This might go through the summer. School's probably not going to reopen, like for the entire academic year.
Yeah, that's right. Initially, it was April 20, and it's not going to happen, most likely.
So yeah. Is your kid? I'm not a parent, as you know. Dove's a parent, but his kid is below school.
You'll never have a kid.
Not likely, no.
It's not true.
I'm not proud of that. But
that's not true either. He
does not want. We're all proud of it. There's no judgment associated with it. It's not for him. It's not what he wants. He likes other people's kids, and that's good. He's a good uncle. Leave him be. He's not going to procreate. It's not for him. He has nephews and nieces. The Naturman name is so strong.
Well, the Naturman name is gone because I have two sisters. So the Naturman name is...
The genetics are so sweet, so strong.
And my one uncle, my father's brother, had a daughter. So that Naturman name is finished.
The Naturman name, but the genetics...
Not the Naturman spirit. The name is not gone, but the spirit and the hypochondria will live on.
Hypochondriacal nature, the Yiddish cups running around nephews and nieces, the bankers of tomorrow. The Naturman genes are alive and well. So sweet.
Periodal, is your kid excited about this? I would imagine if I were a kid, this is like an extra summer vacation.
I mean, he's not unhappy,
Yeah.
He's not. But, it's kind of heartbreaking, too.
Yeah.
Well, what's the heartbreaking part?
He
won't learn stuff, he'll forget anyway?
No. That they should be having fun in school with their friends or playing in the park. They can't do any of that.
Well, you can still go do a limited play date.
No.
First of all, the rules in New York right now are we can go outside.
1,000% no to any social contact. You can be within 6 feet of each other, but
not by law. That's by your prudence as a mother has decided that.
No, this is by all standard medical advice.
Yeah, but I'm saying legally, the kids can go to the park or to a friend's house?
Legally, yes, but I don't. Legally,
Do I hear Noam? I thought I heard a Noam beep.
no. I mean, it is. I mean, you should go to. I mean, it's psychotic to even consider having a play date right now.
Well, I'm not a virologist or an immunologist or an epidemiologist
One of
Well,
the,
or a numismologist.
I mean,
Coin
look,
collector.
I can have a play date. I don't know what Dan's going to do on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I mean, got somebody coming to the house for a light to medium play date. I hear he traded 2 rolls of Scott tissue for the empathetic touch of a young lady down the hall.
Well, no, that's certainly not the case. I do have 36 rolls of toilet paper that I bought at the bodega last night.
2 rolls, so sweet.
So I'm in good shape as far as that's concerned.
Did you
My
order that online, Dan? Because I looked online and I didn't see anything in the next week and a half delivering. Did you order that online?
No, I got it at the bodega next door. I went outside into the hot zone.
So sweet. So
did you
sweet.
take a walk today, Dan?
I did not take a walk, no.
Didn't I tell you to take a walk?
You told me to take a walk. I'll take a walk tomorrow.
Nah,
Take
you
a
gotta
walk.
stay crazy. You don't take a walk, you gotta take a walk.
I was thinking about trying to rent a house outside the city and was told that we really shouldn't go anywhere for 14 days.
Yeah.
Who said that?
It's my doctor.
Well,
Dan has no respect for the medical
did
community.
you ask for a second opinion? And did he say you're ugly too?
First of all, it's a she. And second of all, she's a lesbian. So I think that both of those things are a no.
Well, she's a lesbian. Doesn't mean she finds you attractive.
Well, I would, if I had to put my money on whether she thinks I'm ugly or attractive, I would bet the latter.
There you go.
I would too, because I think you are attractive.
Well,
But
thank you, Dan.
I was trying to make a joke.
I know.
I would like to talk about the impact this is having on comedy, since Noam's not here and we don't have to discuss necessarily political stuff.
Journals. Yes, comedy, yes.
Comedy, we as comedians are amongst those who are the most financially affected by this. We can't do our art form without people gathering.
Right. Well, among others in the service business and in bars and restaurants and nightclubs and anything else that involves a gathering, but certainly comedians are a small part of that demographic.
Right, but we're also psychologically
Ill-equipped to be
ill-equipped to handle these sorts of perturbations, shall we say, in our daily life. So I think that we are uniquely affected by this. But Dov, what has happened in terms of your work? I assume you've had many cancellations.
$20K in the next between this month and next. I lose $20,000, and then we'll see how it stretches out from there. I mean, as a landlord, people are going to stop paying their rent, but
Dov is also a landlord. We should specify that because not everybody is aware.
Regardless of me, it's not about me as much as it is about anybody paying rent or a mortgage. Nobody will be foreclosed on or evicted in the context of the next several months, because they would have a zombie apocalypse in the streets of New York City. You can. I mean, so anyway, it's nobody knows where this ends. I mean, I was just reading about how the Metropolitan Museum of Art, I don't know, it's got to plug into their endowment and they're furloughing worker. Like it's, I mean, who's still at work? Healthcare workers. There's a few people driving the trains. You've got some finance people that are working from home and some attorneys. I'm supposed to close on my house and selling my house next month. We'll see how it goes. What do I know? I'm not getting along with my wife. I've got a light to medium shining here in Jersey. And
well, everybody's talking, a lot of comics are talking about how all the work they're going to get done during this quarantine.
You're gonna write jokes talking to yourself in a hall? I mean, some.
I'm assuming they don't have complete mental breakdowns and wind up writing 30 pages of all work and no play make Jack a dull boy.
But it's going to be a stiff overlook. The average comedian is not going to turn up with a tremendous new 35 minutes when they get there.
I think that the idea that comedians and others are going to use this time creatively has some merit, but I think that when you're stressed and worried and
Yes.
depressed as many comedians are, it's not the best time to be creative.
Jokes out of it. Everybody's on the verge of mental illness. And if you watch any interview with a rapper who goes to jail, every time they go in, they say, they go in saying that they're going to write song after song. Never happens. They come out and anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like this is amazing. I don't feel like this is amazing for my anxiety disorder.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Are you working on a new book, Periel? Because you have several books to your credit. For example, The Only Bush is My Own.
The only bush I trust is my own.
And also Get on Your Knees and
On
Pray.
My Knees.
Oh, okay.
Yes, get on your knees and bang away until the day is gone.
Well, I have worked a bit on my novel. I got a couple I have to sneeze, but
You're supposed to be
Well, sneezing is
sneezing
not a
into
symptom
your
of corona.
elbow.
what's that?
You're supposed to be sneezing into your
There's
elbow.
nobody here, Periel. I live all by myself, as I have done for many, many years.
Many years. I'm going to be doing it too soon, but I'm for some reason the sneeze made me feel as though I could possibly have. I mean, I understand that digitally it doesn't get transferred, but I don't really know that.
I can't really decide if my shortness of breath is because I have the coronavirus or if I'm just in the midst of like a panic attack.
Well, that's the problem with coronavirus's symptoms, is that they all are perfect for psychosomatic illness. Shortness of breath is the classic psychosomatic symptom. So, anybody that is prone to hypochondria or anxiety is going to wind up having shortness of breath.
Every time I cough, I'm like, was that dry?
Yes. And this is an aspect of the perfect storm of paranoia that we're all experiencing, in addition to which the liability is very real. I mean, it just seems like from every angle, it's really something. I mean, if you were 80 to 100 years old, would you be able to contextualize this at all? I mean, if you're 100, you haven't even lived through the Spanish flu. I mean, so this is entirely unprecedented, is it not?
Well, if you're 100, you've lived through the war and World War II, and
World War II.
You've lived through some pretty nasty stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe you've gone to war. Well, no, if you were 100, you probably would have been. Yeah, World War II. You might have gone to World War.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, no, that's certainly.
And there's a meme going around saying that your grandparents were called upon to go to war. You're being called upon to sit on your couch.
Yes.
And I think, I think that meme is interesting because it's true. We're soft. We're just not used to. I mean, if they packed you up and told you to go to Vietnam, then you'd have a real problem on your hands.
You'd have a story on your hands. Now you're sitting around talking about how you're fighting a virus, but this
is relatively easy. I mean, financially can be difficult for many people, and can be anxiety provoking, but it's not being packed up, packed off and sent to Vietnam.
Being marched into a railway car. Yeah.
Or that either.
Yeah.
Fair enough, but
it's real.
But we're weak. We're weak.
No, I mean, come on. The entire world has shut down.
Yeah. Yeah, it certainly has.
I mean, way to kill the spirit. Not you guys. I have a question. I mean, I consider both of you.
I'm a heterosexual is the answer to that question.
Well, Dara Godfrey just texted me.
Okay, that's Gilbert Gottfried's wife.
See what she said.
Also in 1917 with the Spanish flu.
It was 18, yeah.
Was it 15?
I think it was 1918.
18. Okay, my bad. 1918. Economies were more localized in 1918. And so the shock wave economically, was very different. I mean, you knew the people often you bought milk from. I mean, now, if a factory in China shuts down, somebody here doesn't get toilet paper. It's an entirely different, sort of situation on a global financial and economic level.
What does Dara want?
What's that?
I'm asking Periel what Dara wants.
Yeah. What you want?
I was just checking in. She said batshit scary.
Well, one thing we know about the Godfreys is they have plenty of hotel soap and shampoo to get through this crisis.
Right. She said she just did 4 loads of laundry, and
So clean, so folded.
You know, Gilbert Godfrey is a hoarder. He every
Yeah.
time he goes on the road, he takes shampoo and soap from the hotel.
I don't think it's because he's hoarding. I think because it's free.
But whatever the reason, rest assured, the Godfreys will have clean hair for as long as this crisis continues.
Here's my question. I consider both of you what?
Yes, your query is
Because I consider both of you, you know, sort of advanced, highly intelligent beings. Somebody
compared to the rhesus monkey. Yes.
And perhaps even compared to the average comedian. Compared to well, maybe not so much.
A friend of mine who's actually a judge told me that it was ridiculous to think that this wasn't germ warfare.
I think it's ridiculous to think that it is germ warfare. What were you saying? The Chinese are attacking us?
Well, she said that she said, you know, she's usually not
What kind of judge is your friend? Is she like a judge on Match Game or?
No.
Or,
I mean, she's actually
Jamie
usually
Farr?
like a very intelligent, level-headed person. So it was really shocking coming from her because it sounds like something I would say, with just like no basis for anything.
But theoretically, if it were, wouldn't it have originated here in that whatever germ would have been released into Times Square as opposed to into the Wuhan province and then hopefully butterfly its way over and begin killing Americans after knocking out a bunch of Chinese? It just seems indirect. But
yeah, and also getting the French and the Italians along the way.
Well, they're all white.
So is this an anti-white thing?
Anti-white, you know it.
Well, what about, well, on a related note, that gets us into Trump's insistence on in his tweets. Every tweet is the Chinese flu, the Chinese flu.
It's crazy.
Instead of just COVID-19, or at least the Wuhan flu, or Kung flu, as some people are calling it.
I think Kung flu is pretty bad.
But Periel, what is Trump's objective in flavoring the language in this xenophobic, inflammatory? Like, what is the objective in calling it that?
I think he's trying to distance himself from any responsibility.
Right.
Well, I think he doesn't like China.
Well, he should, because Jack Ma is about to send 500,000 masks and 1 million COVID-19 tests. You know that, right?
Jack Ma's.
Jack Ma is the wealthiest guy in Europe, in Asia. Excuse me. He's the CEO of, or the founder of Alibaba.
Well, will he be sending duck sauce?
Stupid.
They never send you enough duck sauce. I'll tell you that.
They never do. Jack Ma is the owner of the Beijing Improv and also the Wuhan Go Bananas.
Well, Maz is not a Chinese name.
Is that true, Dove?
Has he straight up blown us off? This is.
I mean, he has 3 children at home.
If this were Fred Kaplan on Zoom, or you rest assured he would be present and accounted for.
I mean,
not Fred Kaplan, but I don't know if this were, you know.
Okay, this
highly famous intellectual.
Bernie was about to argue before the Supreme Court. We get it.
If Dershowitz were on this, he'd be here.
He'd be here.
All of a sudden, his kids wouldn't be so important.
Yeah, that's right.
According to the governor's experts, the peak will come in approximately 45 days, and we will need anywhere between 55 to 110,000 hospital beds and 18,000 to 37,000 ICU beds.
Who said that?
My doctor's office. And New York only has 53 hospital beds and 3,000 ICU beds.
Well, but given what your judge is saying, I don't know if I trust your doctor.
No, my doctor's amazing. My doctor is actually also Jim and Jeannie Gaffigan's doctor, and she saved Jeannie Gaffigan's life, and she writes extensively about her in her book.
Well,
so she's solid.
She's an epidemiologist. She may be very competent in her field.
No, but
she's not an epidemiologist.
She's not an epidemiologist, but she is. She's the one to fucking listen to.
She's a smart cookie, but I've heard other you know, and that may be true, assuming no measures are taken, but measures are being taken.
Such a measure.
I mean, look at, you got Dove cooped up in his house. You know things are bad when...
I got such a light to medium shining. I got another few days before the walls begin closing in, and little twins are at the end of a hallway.
You know who's going to make a killing on all this? Divorce lawyers.
Oh yeah, yes, you're right. You know, that's funny. That's what they call an externality, an unintended consequence of an issue, a policy, or yes, divorce lawyers. It's going to be a bonanza. There are millions of couples right now that have never spent more than a week together in the same place. I mean, outside of a vacation context, you're talking about apartments in cities with two people gnawing at one another that usually spend 8 hours a day at work. It is a debacle.
I mean, Dov, I don't know if you want to discuss the state of your relationship. I know you.
Nothing. I don't think right now but it's not great. I mean, listen, so sweet, such a.
But you're in a relatively large space together, at least, right?
I am very, very fortunate with regard to the size of the house and the location of the house. But I still got this woman that I live with, and so that can shrink a 4,500-foot house pretty quickly. But no, it's a big place.
Yeah, I mean, we're in like 1,000 square feet at best.
Listen, that's twice the size of my mother's old apartment, you know. But yes, of course. I mean, you know, it's in New York.
And can hardly stand each other on a good day.
Yes. No, you're right. Divorce lawyers it's going to be a bonanza. Their phones are not going to stop ringing I mean, however long this thing lasts, you're going to have another year and a half, and divorce lawyers they're going to be sipping champagne at noon, those guys.
Think about how many people are finding out that the person they're with is in the middle of having an affair.
Oh my God, could you imagine? I mean, we're finding out, you know, what the person they're with is like when they don't have anything to do with their hands, and all of that anxiety begins to manifest itself in the person they always were, as opposed to the person you thought they were when they were in the briefcase. Son of a bitch. It's going to be a wild scene out there. Thank God.
What have you been doing with your days? Have you been watching a lot of Netflix or reading?
None of that. I've been looking at the stock market. I'm researching a little bit. I just bought one of Warren Buffett's favorite books, The Intelligent Investor. I want to know where the bottom is at. You know, I mean, if I'm not dead by the end of this thing, I'd like to make a couple of bucks. But also, you know, you work out a little bit. I took a drive, thinking about selling one of my cars. I don't need to. I'm not going anywhere. I'm under a quarantine. You understand? My wife doesn't like me. My kid didn't talk yet. He's 16 months old. He thought he was in a boxcar today because anyway, yeah, everything's perfect. It's all great. It's going.
He won't remember it. That's what's good.
Yes, I know. It won't scar him because he's having a great time.
Yeah. The irony of the fact that you're gallivanting around in a T-shirt that says hubby.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. It was a workout shirt. It's not something I would normally wear out of the house, but here we are in the house.
I have not been working out at home. Normally I go to the gym. The reason, generally speaking, I don't work out if there's no steam room at the end of the workout. The steam room is my motivation.
Yeah.
Really?
My true love and my one place that I am relatively relaxed at. But since I don't have that, I'm less prone to work out in the house. Dove is shadowboxing now.
How long do you spend in the steam room?
Well, as long as I can stand it. Typically, what I do is I go in, and then I'll walk out and cool off. Maybe take a cool shower, go back in 45 minutes or so.
Wow.
Of going in and out.
Yeah, so sweet, such a steam. They call him the steam master. He goes in there, he steams, he walks out, he goes back in, he takes another steam. I mean, you're talking about you can knock off half a day like that before you tell jokes for 15 minutes, and the next day looks forward to another steam. Why don't you get outside, you do some exercise, do a couple of push-ups, whether or not you have the steam to look forward to.
I think that's good advice, but I do love a steam. I don't know if we can conclude anything Freudian, with regard to getting back to the womb and I don't know, but certainly there's probably some psychological grist for the mill.
Well, yeah, no. I mean, yeah, you could go somewhere Freudian with that. Although a lot of people like esteem, you just happen to have a bit more of an affinity for it than many.
Yes, a lot of people like esteem, but
But
a lot of people like, but like
are there?
sex, but then there's then there's the addicts.
Yeah, then you got your OCD.
And you got your Tiger Woods.
You ever run into an aggressive homosexual in this team?
Yes, but years ago at the other location, I go to Equinox, but at this location, it's been fine. At the other location, I had a couple of masturbating incidents. Yes, I did. And I walked out of the steam room annoyed that my steam was interrupted.
What do you mean interrupted? They were already jerking off when you walked
I walked
in there?
Dan was
in there. He started jerking off.
Where other people got angry and he walked out with a piece in his hand.
I should have said, hey, beat it. But instead, I was sheepish and I just walked out of the steam room.
Wait, you were in there and somebody walked in and started jerking off?
I was in there and somebody else was in there and then he started jerking off.
Well, listen, it's slippery in there. We don't know that he was actually masturbating. It's just, when you reach for something every now and then. I had an incident at Crunch Fitness on Lafayette. I saw some guy's towel popping around. I turned to my right and he was really waxing the old rod. And I said, what the fuck are you doing? And then he tucked it back under the towel. And it was a Mexican standoff. I wasn't going to attack the guy, but at the same time, had he kept, I shouldn't have didn't leave. But then he didn't leave, and we just sat there. It was very awkward, so awkward.
In the locker room?
No, steam room. No, it was actually a sauna. It wasn't a steam room because you could see well. There was no mist. There was no mist in the room, but it was a classic Me Too moment. But and
you never hear stories about women doing this shit.
No, women
only fucking men. I have never walked into a room and then a woman walks in and just starts masturbating.
No one's arguing that women in many ways are the superior sex in certain ways. Now, if you want a bridge built or some ironworking done.
Ironwork, yes.
I think men probably are the people you want to turn to in that situation.
The guy was working his iron in the sauna when Dan walked out. He was working an iron, all right. There was an iron work. Such a steam fitting.
I just sent Noam a text. I find this disturbing. At least he could send a text saying, I can't make it tonight. But
listen, there'll be another night. We'll talk steam. We'll talk Corona.
I did want Noam's opinion on. Whether he thinks what effect this will have on Trump in terms of whether this will favor his reelection or not.
Well, we will get it. This is our first one. And, I think that it's a really nice thing that we're able to do this.
Yes, it is nice.
I mean, I was thrilled to see both of your faces.
Listen, it really reduces, the experience of not only things closing in, but the unnatural kind of context in which we're all just not coming into contact with people. I mean, video contact is a form of contact, which reduces the anxiety brought about by, we're social animals. I mean,
what's it like by you though? Are people out?
Well, it's because it's this park setting, and so there's a guards, and then they can walk around. There's a lot of social space, and there's a little playground, but no one's there. So it's the oldest. It's actually an interesting place. It's strange. It's the oldest planned community in America, and so there are houses from the 1800s. It's 12 miles from the city. It's in West Orange. Yeah. I don't know. Listen, if you got to be quarantined, I mean.
And then, can you go when you go to the store? Is there stuff there? Is it empty?
There's a Whole Foods by me. I mean, they're running low on frozen goods and dry stuff. I'm saying goods, like I'm riding into town on a horse. Goods. I don't think I've ever even called it that. They've got fresh stuff so far, but we'll see what goes on next week. I went to Costco and there were cops in front, and then a guy on a speaker saying that they're out of paper goods and water.
I was at Christie's a couple of days ago, and I almost never go shopping for food because I do most of my eating out. But they were well stocked in pretty much everything. Now my stove doesn't work because there was like a gas leak and they disconnected it, and I never bothered getting a new stove. So I'm limited to that which doesn't need a stove and an oven. So I got cereal, sandwiches, sandwich meat, dried apricots, and such. I'm finding myself very hungry the whole day. I don't know if that's because when there's nothing else to do, you get hungry, but a lot of people are saying they've just been eating through all of they've bought.
Yeah. It was like you bought food for a month and then you ate it all on the second day.
Yeah. So I assume people are going to become fat at the end of all of this. No one's going to be able to recognize each other when we all see each other again at the Comedy Cellar. Yeah,
listen, divorce rates are going to shoot up. Everybody's going to be, not fit. I mean, it'll be a funny looking place when everybody wanders out of their apartments for the first time 5 months from now. We'll see.
Periel.
I'm talking to Noam.
Oh, okay. What does Noam have to say?
He said, I fell asleep.
Too
much going on for me today. I'm sorry.
Well, tell him he can join us for just 10 minutes.
I did. I just did. I said, why don't you join for a little?
Yes, and his response to that.
I mean, I'm not holding on. I'm not holding out on you. Let's see what he says. So
have you been finding yourself, Periel, gorging on your provisions?
Your provisions, have you?
I'm trying not to, although I don't usually have stuff like this laying around.
So good. Nothing like a good take.
Yeah, it's a good take.
It's such a gift.
I mean, if we're not going to see the peak for this for 45 days, Noam will be joining us next week.
Oh, come on, man. Look,
but what's also funny about all of this is that 48 hours into the really heavy quarantine stuff, people are already talking as though they've gone through some sort of intense experience. I mean, it's going to get I don't know about exponentially tougher psychologically, but I mean, we
haven't seen anything yet.
We haven't seen anything yet. Anything? No.
Well, maybe it won't be what we think. Maybe somebody will come. I read that in Australia, you read a lot of things. There's a lot of different information coming at you. But I read in Australia that they're experimenting with these medications, this combination therapy that seems to be effective against coronavirus or the Chinese virus, if you will.
Stop calling it that.
You know what else is going on?
So I'm saying somebody could come to the rescue.
Look at this. I got a text. I don't know if you can see. It says I miss you. And it's from a number that I don't know, which is an indicator that the Nigerian scammers are opening up and preying on people's psychological vulnerability. Somebody's sitting in an apartment right now that isn't me getting that and writing back. And then before you know it, there's a relationship.
Well, it could be, Dove, that you've had a history. This is no secret. I'm not telling tales out of school, but prior to your being married, there were, I would say 5,000 or 6,000, that you've had a history, that there could be any one of the young ladies.
1,000? 5,000 or 6,000?
I'm exaggerating to make.
No, it's likely under 1,000. No, they wouldn't send a text like this. I miss you it's a random, it's cryptic. It's meant to grab you, because if they had actual personal knowledge of who you are, there would be some context to that. Nobody from 5 years ago just says, I miss you. They would say, hey, it's so-and-so, or they would place, something.
Say, do you still like, if they knew you, they might say something like, do you still like to get fucked with a strap on?
You still enjoy a good pegging is what they'd say if they knew.
Yeah, and then you'd know that it was somebody that actually, although I suppose if you sent out 100 random texts, do you still enjoy pegging?
Yes.
A few people would be like, wow, so this is obviously someone that knows me.
Yeah, you get a couple of
takers. But I don't know what kind of scam that would be. I mean, what's the end game of such a scam?
Well,
They ask you for money. I mean,
there are a number of scenarios where people will end up getting personal information and then using that to scam somebody. I mean, I saw some mini documentary where some older cat fell in love with it was a Nigerian guy on the other end of it, but he thought it was a delightful young lady and they were sending pics. It happens to me on,
That girl from Russia or someplace in yeah, that was so fucked up. He was American though. He lived here.
yes, he was the only guy that lived here. Don't underestimate what that kind of isolation could do to somebody, or a sense of loneliness. I mean, any kind of connection could will one into believing that which is unlikely or shouldn't.
well, you're correct when you
That
say
if you're
that.
under those circumstances, you would not.
That reminds me of a time at a strip club in Vegas
Yes, there you
where and I was feeling lonely. I was on the road.
go. So sweet.
Not quite the confident man that you know today.
That we all say, that we all know and love.
And the stripper said, "Come to me to the champagne." This was Vegas. She said, "Come with me to the champagne room, $300." I said, "Well, what goes on in the champagne room?" She just, "Don't worry about it. You won't regret it."
You won't regret it, baby.
Well, $300 later, I regretted it.
Regret it.
All that happened was she implied, like, I thought this is Vegas, and I thought, all right, it's Vegas, anything goes, that, for $300 you would get some sort of sexual satisfaction, but it was three lame lap dances. And
no blowjob?
Nothing. And what am I going to do at that point? Am I going to complain to the manager that she didn't do something illegal? Because in fact, it is illegal in Las Vegas. It's not illegal in the Reno area, but it is.
Right. No. It's still illegal in a strip club in Reno. They just have places that if you want to have sex for money, you can go in, but they're designated.
But the point is, I fell prey to that sort of thing.
Yes.
My desperation at the time got the better of me.
That's exactly right.
And I was out $300, and a gig that I probably was only making $1,000 for the week at the time, if not probably less, in fact.
You got suckered, baby.
But that was a lesson well learned. I don't tolerate strippers anymore. I tell them to beat it. I see they come my way. I'm here for the buffet.
If you want to pay for sex, you pay for it like a gentleman. You don't walk around a club where the conceit is, I'm going to dance for you, and then maybe something happens in the champagne room. Don't be a sucker.
I mean, do you have that? Are you against prostitutes also for that reason, or is that okay?
Prostitution is honest. Prostitutes say, you pay me X, I give you Y. Strippers, yes, theoretically, you're supposed to understand that this is just a fantasy, but they take advantage of lonely people, that men that might think they have a chance with this stripper, and
By the way, that's a segment. I'm saying that's a segment of the economy right now that must have just been obliterated. I mean, look.
That's what I was just going to say. Do you think prostitutes are still working? No way, right?
I don't listen to who would still do that? I guess if you're a drug addict, sure. I guess you put yourself in, some sort of awful, in terrible situations. But you gotta think it's diminished the demand, and unless you're a heroin addict, I would imagine it's diminished the supply as well.
Now, if both parties were to wear a mask and
gloves,
and not. There's no kissing. I don't know if you can get corona via intercourse.
Well, there's already apparently a whole section of corona porn.
I heard about that. Yeah.
Are you sure?
People are into.
I mean,
what is corona porn?
People fucking with masks and gloves on.
Well, okay. I mean that I don't see why that would be interesting to people, but okay. I mean, I guess everybody.
Yeah, listen, there's no accounting for what's interesting to people. I've never gotten, I don't understand why you jerk off on somebody's foot, but somebody likes it. I don't know why people do it.
Yeah, I knew somebody who was.
Yeah. Foot person?
Yeah, foot fetish.
They love it. Mm-hmm. They can't get enough of the stuff.
He was gay guy, but like hardcore foot fetish. Like would like to like go into like a filthy bathroom and like hump your motorcycle boots ideally.
Such a boot. Such a sweet humping of a boot. I mean, listen, there's no accounting for what people are into, for God's sake.
So let me ask you guys this. If the peak for this is in 45 days,
Yeah.
the peak, that means that we've got at least 90 days ahead of us of this.
Well, I don't know where your information comes from, and
I keep
also
telling
don't know if
you.
you're interpreting it correctly. I know that China has already, as I understand it, managed to reverse the curve.
That's because they weren't allowed to leave the house for 2 months, honey.
Yes, and they're able to mobilize that type of, I don't know, those parameters that much more readily. Here it's been piecemeal, and they were able to do it en masse. I mean, the article I read was that they did it so much more effectively that that we've already missed the boat in terms of being able to match that level of reduction in terms of flattening the curve. Or so
I mean, there were thousands of people on the beach in Florida.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like yesterday.
Yeah. Not Wuhan. There were no thousands of people on a beach in Wuhan, Dan.
But they're all young people.
Flatten the curve.
What
It
happens
doesn't
is
matter. They're spreading it. You can be asymptomatic.
Well, but what if we just isolated the at-risk people and let all the, hear me out, you isolate all the at-risk people, you let the young people all get it, and they develop a herd immunity. You know what a herd immunity means? That's when someone says, hey, I heard you was immune.
So sweet. He's already got it, baby. He's got it. You think the corona was going to diminish those punchlines? Not going to happen. Got it.
No, like if enough people are immune, then it kind of stops it. And so maybe if we let all the young folk get it.
That's not how this thing works.
But don't tell me how this works. I've been in this game a long time. Well, I think maybe.
It's going to be 3 months.
But again, if we just isolate the at-risk people, logically speaking, I'm not sure why that would be a bad policy.
Because it's not feasible, number one. I mean, which you could just end there, technically. It's not feasible. It's not going to happen.
Well, I don't know if it's feasible. Like if you know that you're in an at-risk group, then you can,
So I guess it presents other types of liability, certainly for older people. I mean, if young people all got it and older people stayed really quarantined, but that would take some very specific Marshall level of kind of societal.
Crazy idea, too.
Well, you're dealing with a man who's on the edge, Periel. You talk to him in 40 days from now. You're
suggesting that the alternative is I got to stay here for another 2 months, and I'm telling you that ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm getting out of here one way or another.
Yeah.
But
Where you going?
I don't know. But look, the people that have like huge estates, I mean, if I had a big house on an island somewhere, that'd be one thing. But I'm dealing with a studio apartment. But you can walk outside as long as you keep.
Well, you can go to Central Park, right? You don't want to touch anything. And if you're going in anywhere in close quarters, the mask, the glove, but
it lives on plastic for up to 3 days.
Yeah, right.
I'm optimistic. I don't know how, but I think that it's going to, I don't see that we're going to be quarantined for 90 days or 45 days. I am optimistic, but perhaps I'm optimistic. But I also thought I would have a big career by now. So when one wants something, one convinces oneself.
Well, I think you made a good point about us, a generation from now, not being able to look back and talk about how we fought the big one, because we were we were fighting by gnawing away at a Tate's cookie. That's how I fought the war. The whole economy went flat while I sucked down a double Tate's. And then, listen, the one great thing it's done is there is no politically correct. I haven't seen one printed word using with the term microaggression since this thing began. Not one person is worried about whether it's a transvestite or a Zay or a Zay. I mean, it's all gone out. Nobody cares.
Well, I wonder if there's going to be any permanent effects to all this. If it is what Periel's suggesting, a 45-day, a 90-day effect, will this instill in us some sense of perspective when it's all over, such that
I hope so.
Not as small and petty when this is all over, and perhaps we see the world differently.
Yeah, for 2 weeks. Have you met any human animals? These people can't remember a lesson. Every
Well,
time.
there is that, yes.
Our kids are going to be not that bright. Judy Gold wrote on Instagram, well, talk about like, let's look on the bright side. At least we don't have to worry about school shootings.
That's funny. You got to worry about them getting, yeah. I mean, I don't know.
That is a positive. The truth is, there probably will be a lot. Well, but there'll be a lot less drunk driving deaths. I'd imagine there'll be a lot less. Nobody's drinking at bars and driving home. There'll probably be a lot less, I guess, robberies and street crime. I'd imagine a lot of.
You think that's the case? Why would there be so much less? You think all the robberies that otherwise would have been taking place? You think they were being
Well,
they're exercising extreme cautions. The robbers.
You're right.
They were jumping through windows and stealing TVs to buy heroin. You think they're going to be sitting home going, maybe I should think the better of. Who the hell do you think they're doing?
Maybe I should self-quarantine.
Yes, I should.
Okay, but I stand firm on less drunk driving accidents.
Yes.
That I stand firm on.
That's reasonable. Less drunk driving.
So, I guess less people, less traffic accidents. In general,
yes.
I stand firm on that.
No, that's a good one.
In terms of the bright side, to add to Judy Gold's tongue-in-cheek but perfectly logical statement that there'll be less school shootings. Well, there's no school, so yes, that's true. I do wonder also if, when this is all said and done, can we finally, and I know, Dov, you've mentioned this, can we finally jettison the handshake?
Oh, I hope to God we can. I've been trying to get out of this for a decade now.
Really?
I can't stand it.
Shaking somebody's hand?
Oh, by the way, I don't believe in any, all that stuff is, but I just don't like, the hand thing is not good. Not good. You see what goes on with these hands. They're everywhere. It's not good.
Because people are filthy.
Yeah, people. It's not good. It's not good. A fist bump, but a good bow and a nice Wuhan style bow is the way I like.
I don't think they bow in China. That's a Japanese thing. Do they bow in China?
Worry about what goes on in China. There's plenty of bowing. Plenty of bowing. Is that true? They don't bow in China?
I maybe they may. I don't know. But I associate bowing with Japanese people. Now I don't lump all East Asians together because I'm a little more sophisticated than that. Some people would just say Japanese, Chinese, what's the difference? But I don't do that. I distinguish.
There are enormous differences. I did associate most Asian cultures with a bow with regard to the Koreans, the Japanese, and the Chinese. That's what I could be wrong, but that's a good point you're making.
I don't know. I could Google that, I suppose. But
I'm going to Google it right now.
You Google it.
There we go, right here. Do the Chinese bow? We're going to get an answer to this right now. Do the Chinese bow? Yeah. Let's see. Traditional greeting in Japan, Korea, China, and Vietnam. Bows are the traditional greeting in East Asia, particularly in Japan, Korea, and China. They all bow, baby.
Okay.
Such a bow. Hiya! I think that they bow at the different. Some people go for a full, then some people go hiya.
Isn't how deep you bow indicative of like how?
When I see Dan, I go very deep. I go deep with a bow. You see some of these comedians. I give them. They're lucky to get a half a head nod out of me.
I don't think that bowing is something as Americans, I don't see that taking root here. But the fist bump, I think, is an option I'll get behind.
I agree. The fist bump.
It's a little, perhaps, we associate it with urban culture. And for that reason.
Like R&B / hip hop hurdle to be overcome. But I think.
Yeah, for that reason, it's hard. It will be hard, perhaps, for the more traditionally minded folks, the older folks and the more conservative folks to perhaps adopt the fist bump. But I do think it is a better alternative to the handshake.
I just think it's going to be a while before we see, an older white politician, You know, I mean, we're still involved with this handshake. I think it comes from a time
We're
when
still involved.
what's that? Yeah,
We're
like
still involved with his handshake.
the handshake. This very involved, but the Biden thing is interesting. I mean, you know, since this has a political lean, you know, it looks like he's going to be the guy to run against Trump. And right now, I mean, if anything can weaken Trump, I mean, you got to think it could be a Wuhan flu that flattens the world economy, and then his team doesn't seem to mobilize. Even conservatives are being critical in terms of the degree of mobilization and smoothness with which, or lack thereof.
Although
I just read
although
something
there
in the
are
National
people that
Review
say
about them.
there are people that say that Trump's anti-immigrant stance will be reinforced by this, so that people will say, "Oh, see, Trump is right. We need to enforce the borders." I don't know if that's
Enforcing the borders wouldn't prevent this. You know,
well, that may be true, but I think the general notion of
the
border
overall
control.
xenophobia, you know, that kind of thing.
Yes, I think so. I think that might find resonance,
Right.
you know, and I think that this
I mean, as long as you have an airport that accepts flights from other parts of the world, you're going to get, you know, another, hopefully much less egregious Wuhan flu. You know.
well, you know, they do say that the last several outbreaks are that China seems to be a source of many new.
Well, but some come from other places. Wouldn't Ebola come out of Africa, right? I mean, there were a
I'm not
number
sure,
of
but I know that China seems to, as I've read from reliable sources, that China does see, because of their the handling of meat and their.
Yeah, they give some wild dietary stuff, but also they're 1 billion people, right? So if you just as a percentage of the population on planet Earth, if more are going to come out of there than Iceland, for God's sake.
Certainly more Rhode Island.
More than Rhode Island. You got more people in one apartment building in Hong Kong than all of Reykjavik.
Pitcairn Island.
Oh, Pitcairn.
You know, Pitcairn Island. That's where the Mutiny on the Bounty people went
Mutiny on the Bounty on Pitcairn. Sure, I know it very well.
But you know, so Bill Gates did a TED Talk years ago. I was watching it. I had to stop because we were doing our show. But he did a TED Talk, I think, in 2015, where he was talking about how we're not ready. If you Google TED Talk Bill Gates.
Yeah. It's everywhere.
Did you send that to me, Periel? I saw that
Maybe.
somewhere. Somebody sent it to me that Bill Gates predicted that we are not ready for the next big outbreak. And I'll watch it when we get done here. But did you see it, Periel?
Well,
I didn't see it.
ready in what context?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen the TED Talk.
Okay.
Well,
I just wonder how ready one can be for this type of thing. And I read, and again, this is in a conservative paper in the National Review. The author talked about how the types of governments that are very good at mobilizing extremely quickly and creating a martial law-like atmosphere are more not austere. What's the word? They're
more
well, he used China as an example of governments that are societies that
autocratic, I think it's
autocratic. Societies that are less free are much better at mobilizing very quickly. And they're saying that the price you pay for being in a society where there are lots of freedoms is that you are not going to flatten the curve as quickly and efficiently as they did over there.
But next time, perhaps we'll react more quickly. We're a little more spring-loaded. The next time, when we hear something like this, we'll react a week earlier than we reacted this time, and which, by the way, in a situation like this, could be very significant,
very big. Although human nature is suggestive of the idea that won't be the case. It'll be a few years from now. It'll be a different administration. We'll get lax again. Look at all of the financial debacles every 10, 20 years. It keeps happening. We never.
I mean, people are still walking around outside like nothing.
Yeah.
Just,
they'll walk around.
It's mental illness. Like, it really is mental illness.
I don't think it's mental illness. They have a different perception of it than you do. They have a different risk aversion than you do. They're probably younger people that rightly don't think that they are in mortal danger, and that's statistically true.
But why is that the only mitigating factor? Is whether it affects you personally? Like, what about everybody else?
Factor, but it's a factor that motivates younger people to be less concerned.
Well, you know what I think? I think that
And-
everybody who's not doing this should need to go volunteer in an emergency room for 1 week.
Yeah, that'll solve it.
I really do think that, because the risk that the healthcare professionals and the doctors and the nurses and the emergency room doctors are taking is insane.
Yeah.
And to have some self-entitled fucking 23-year-old going out to the bars because he's not going to get sick is just psychotic.
Well,
And
the bars are closed, but there are people in the park.
What do you say?
Look, they'll stop when they're legally obligated to stop.
Well, and you know, I mean, it's coming. I mean, if people can't stop, you know, can't use discretion on their own, they're going to create some form of martial law. I mean, I guess Cuomo said that they don't want to do it, right?
Cuomo said
but
he has
on
no
a federal
immediate
level, it
plans
can
to shut the
override.
city down.
Yeah. Well, the city's already shut down.
Well, to shut it down such that you can't even go outside. Like in Italy, I think, or in France, you have to have a piece of paper.
Both.
I think it's kind of the honor system, but you have to sign a piece of paper saying, I'm going out for an urgent need. I have to go shopping or buy something, medication or whatever, and you have to sign a piece of paper attesting to that.
It's in both. It's in France and in Italy.
Yeah, so they're doing that. So you can't even go outside without a good reason, or even to walk your dog, I think is an acceptable reason. So
But isn't the language shelter inside already being used? Something along the line. It's
that's what that means. That you shelter inside basically means you're not going outside without a damn good reason.
right, which is a soft form of martial law, isn't it?
Yeah, well, in order for that to work, you have to have it to enforce it, which means you have to have some police presence.
Yeah.
Well, there is. I mean, and there is.
And I guess there's also public shaming. I mean, you know, I think if they did that, most people would obey it. But I don't know if that's true. Without
the problem with allowing people to behave and hoping that their discretion gets the better of them is that it's like hecklers in an audience. It's the kinds of people who lack the self-awareness necessary to crow out. There's no winning in that scenario, and yet they're compulsed to behave like that anyway. It's the same people running around outside without any self-awareness. There is no discretion, so that's why we need so many fucking, you know, rules and attorneys. That's why you need a martial law with these animals.
Well, you can't have police everywhere. I mean, you could at enormous cost. You know, you could have, I mean, like speeding. I mean, most people speed and don't get caught. But if the punishment is severe enough for the ones that do get caught, it can dissuade everybody from taking the chance, I guess.
Well, not quite everybody. I don't know if you've heard anything about the prison system in America, but there are a couple of million people that weren't dissuaded. But I hear you.
That's the other thing is the prisons. The prisons.
I don't know much about. I know I've been reading that that's an issue, but I don't know much about that.
Well, go ahead, Perry.
No, go ahead.
Well, no, I heard something that part of the issue was the law and order component is they actually are looking to avoid arrest because they don't want to introduce any carriers into the prison population right now. They're into jails and that being a liability. And then also someone was arguing for the, you know, sort of, I don't know what it's called when they release you from prison.
The early release of the elderly prisoners.
Yeah, something like that, which is a different scenario than not arresting new people that may be carrying it.
Well, in Italy, the guards just abandoned the prisons and the prisoners took over and went into the infirmary and started overdosing on all sorts of drugs in there. You know, everybody rife with coronavirus.
Can you imagine? Nothing like
I mean, can you imagine if that happened at like Rikers?
God, what a mess. This whole thing is such a mess. I hope it doesn't spin out of control. I mean,
I'm optimistic. I think we'll have, in a week's time, there'll be some good news. I think a week's time, it will be better than Periel's prediction. That we will see that we'll come back here next week and we'll be a little bit more relieved. Periel, I had asked Dove about what he's doing. What have you been up to? Have you been watching Netflix?
I've been watching Office.
The Office? Hello? Periel,
The
you're frozen.
Office.
What's that?
I've been watching The Office.
Wasn't that an old show? I never got into that, but
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I've watched it before. And, I'm playing with my 6-year-old
Yeah.
and trying not to commit homicide or become a victim of domestic violence.
Yeah.
well, we certainly wish you luck. It won't be easy. I watched Jerry Maguire. Remember Jerry Maguire?
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. It was kind of dumb, I thought.
Really?
As many movies are years
You
later.
sound surprised by that.
Pardon?
You sound surprised
I
by
remember it
that.
was a big
Because
deal
at the time, it got such good reviews.
at the time, and a well-beloved movie at the time. But I was watching it now. I mean, this guy's this great athlete, Cuba Gooding Jr., but he wasn't making any money because he wasn't getting a good contract because he wasn't like friendly to the press or whatever. I don't know. It didn't seem realistic to me. But again, I don't know.
Sounds riveting.
Oh, it's a fun movie. It's got Renee Zellweger in it, who's adorable, and Tom Cruise is charming.
Yeah.
But the plot seemed a little kind of stupid to me. But then again, I don't know the world of sports agenting.
I find Tom Cruise absolutely revolting on every level.
Well, on every level?
The connection's going out. Oh, there we go. You're back.
I mean, he's insane. He's in like a full-blown cult.
Well, be that as it may, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the man's.
Well, you said he was
performances.
charming. You said he was charming.
I think he is charming in his roles. In real life, I never met the guy. But
Never met Hitler either. Not that not that I'm comparing the two, but what does that have to do?
You are comparing the two, and that's an absurd comparison.
I'm not. I just said I'm not.
If Hitler were a good actor, I would acknowledge it.
My point was not that I was comparing them, but that you can draw conclusions about people whom you've never met
without having spent 20 minutes in a sauna with the person. You don't need to shake. I never broke my arm, but it looks like it looks like it's painful.
No,
Thank you, Deb.
In his roles, I find him charming.
His roles.
Speaking of rolls, that's another thing I bought at the supermarket. Anything ready to eat is what I'm getting at. No steaks, no chicken, no bats.
Were you able to get paper towels as well, Dan, and toilet paper?
No, well, I don't. I have paper towels. I don't use paper towels that much.
Oh, right. You don't cook that much. Yeah.
I have what I need.
Do you have disinfectant spray and stuff? Because like the doorknobs and all of that, you're supposed to be spraying down.
I'm not getting quite that obsessive compulsive. I'm washing my hands.
It's not obsessive
I'm washing
compulsive.
my hands. That should suffice. When I come into the apartment,
yes,
I've touched various things that I have touched in the outside world. I wash my hands. So I think that should suffice. I don't know why that wouldn't be adequate.
Just want to make sure that you're not exposing yourself. We're worrying about you.
Very exposed psychologically.
There's only so much I'm willing to, and I'm an obsessive person, but there's only so much I'm willing to just completely be obsessed by this.
I hear you.
I'm washing my hands. I think that should suffice. I'm not disinfecting every surface I touch.
Yeah, no, I know. Me too.
Now I might if I read that this virus just is more deadly than I'm told that it is, but I'm not at this point moved to carry around disinfectant with me everywhere I go.
Oh, that's what I'm doing.
Well, that's certainly your right to do it. I'm not going that far. I think we've got about an hour.
We've got about an hour.
Yeah, or more.
Okay.
Well, I guess next week, I assume we'll still be, absent a miracle, we'll still be doing this from our apartment. Dove is shadowboxing, quite impressively, I dare say.
I know, that's not bad.
Yeah, Dove's got some moves, no question about it.
He's the only one who's going to be in shape at the end of all this.
But, hopefully next week Noam will join us.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And I wish you, I'll be speaking to you, I guess, during the week.
Yeah, good to hear from you guys. Peace, love. You let me know when we do it again. And all the best, Periel. And stay warm and safe. And
Periel, what do we have to do on our end to end this show?
I think we have to say you can email us at...
No, I mean, what do we have to do technically?
Oh, and we can say, Dove, where can everybody find you?
I mean, technically in terms of...
Yeah.
I know, Mike's going to do it.
Just at Dove Davidoff.
All we have to do is click off.
I think so, Mike. Mike? I think so, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
My mic was muted.
That's okay.
What do we do? We just sign off at the end and it's all saved?
Yeah, I save it and do it all on this end. And Reagan's going to mix it down and send it in for you.
All right, we thank you. At podcast at comedycellar.com. Is that correct, Periel?
Yes.
For all your questions, comments, and suggestions. And we'll see you next time.
And everybody stay inside.
Stay inside, but Periel suggests you go for walks. So she doesn't. She talks about out of both sides of her mouth.
Good night.
Bye-bye.